Please get behind me, sir.
With Lynn Collins playing the beautiful Dejah Thoris in the 2012 adaptation, anyone who didn't know about her became a fan of Dejah. So in this video, we will delve deep into this warrior princess of Barsoom who has shown exceptional skills since her first introduction in Under the Moons of Mars. Now, before we go into our video, we have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you very much. Now let's begin. Who is Dejah Thoris? Created by Edgar Rice Burroughs, Dejah is the courageous princess of Lesser Helium, Jed Mor's Kajak's daughter and Dejah Thoris Mor's granddaughter. She is a warrior princess, a skilled combatant, a natural-born leader, and an idealistic woman. She is very good at strategies and is a compassionate character overall. She later becomes the wife of John Carter, the warlord of Helium, and they have beautiful kids, Thoris and Tara. Marvelous story arcs of Dejah Thoris. Dejah Thoris against Colossus of Mars. Dejah's first major story arc is where she has to face off against the Colossus of Yorn, who is taken over by the Jeddak of Yorn. He used his son Blaine's research to find out about the Colossus, and once unearthed, the Jeddak of Yorn bound himself to the Colossus and destroyed the Tharks. Dejah, in this story, proves how strong and resilient she is because she is always seen bringing everyone together and reminding them that the true villain is not themselves, but the Jeddak of Yorn himself. We see her use Martian technology, the energy wings and use, to interfere with the brainwaves shared by the Jeddak of Yorn and the Colossus, making it easy for them to be defeated. Dejah Thoris in the future. Dejah has always been a curious cookie, and this time, after asking her grandfather, the Jeddak, for permission, Dejah made her way to Dorvus, where scientists are studying strange archaeological runes. An undercover Zogdangan tries to attack Dejah, and while protecting her, the portal is activated, and she is fast-forwarded 1,003 years into the future. In this bleak future, Barsoom is invaded by Jazumians, who are thickening the atmosphere and refilling the ocean, harming the residents of Barsoom. They see Dejah in the water and assume she is the rebel leader, Dejah Carter, because of how similar they look. Dejah is tortured for hours by the Jazumian colonel until Bor-Vik, the scientist from her timeline, shows up to save her. While they are making their hasty escape, they come across Dejah Carter and her group, who infiltrated the Jazumian base to find out who the Jazumian fleet rescued. Once the pieces fall into place, Thoris and Carter escape together. However, life is not looking up. They are not sure how they can send back Thoris to her timeline because she is an anomaly in their timeline. As they try to figure that out, we learn two things. Dejah Carter is dying from being affected by the nerve gas of the Earthians, and she can't be cured. The Jazumians have found the Dorvus runes from underwater, and now they can send Thoris back to her timeline. So, Carter decides to get captured and serve as a distraction by blowing herself and Otis, the Jazumian colonel, up together. This distraction stalls enough time for Bor-Vik to fix the time portal, and once the portal is fixed, Bor-Vik conditions Dejah to forget everything that happened in this short travel, with the trigger being John Carter, and makes her walk through the portal. Once Dejah comes out the other side almost in a daze, she damages the portal, making sure no one can ever activate it, and the invasion of Barsoom by Jazumians is evaded in every timeline, but she doesn't know why she did it. In the last panel of the 32nd issue of Warlord of Mars, we see Dejah look into a pool of water, and suddenly her reflection takes the form of Dejah Carter, making Dejah question what truly happened when she walked through the portal. John Carter meets Dejah Thoris. Helium and Zondanga were on the verge of a war. The city that Dejah loved very much was on the verge of being destroyed, so Dejah wanted to do her part. She was trying to figure out a way to protect the atmosphere and save everyone involved, and so to do so, she was out on an expedition. While on this expedition, her ship was attacked by the Tharks. Their Jeddak, Tal Hajus, takes Dejah captive. While Dejah tries to be diplomatic, she is attacked by a Thark who finds the concept of an alliance between the Red and Green Martians ludicrous. However, before he could hurt her again, John Carter showed up. He is the Earthman with superhuman abilities on Barsoom. In front of his strength, even the strongest Thark had to face defeat, and with that, John protected Dejah. Despite his powers, he was a prisoner, and their shared fates brought them closer. John was unsure of where he was and everything that was going on. Dejah helped him understand everything, and with that, John found a friend in her. Dejah was just like him and extremely beautiful. The attraction grew between them, and soon enough, romance blossomed. However, Dejah wanted nothing to do with that. He wanted to molest Dejah, and so he separated and captured Dejah. Right before he could torture her, Jon came to save her. He leaves the evil Jeddak incapacitated for his friend Tars Tarkas, who has held Dejah for the longest time, and they make a quick escape. But this unplanned escape was a bad idea because soon they didn't have any food or water. That was when they were attacked by Thark pursuers. To buy Sola and Dejah more time, Carter sacrificed himself. Dejah assumed he was going to die and confessed her feelings for him before leaving. Dejah and Sola were found by the Zodangan patrol, and when she returned to Helium, the dire situation they were in came to the surface. Because Dejah was missing, the whole of Helium's army was deployed to find her, leaving Helium unprotected, and the Zodangan Jeddak, Sab Kosis, used that opportunity to surround Helium. So to maintain peace and not let bloodshed take place, Dejah agrees to a peace treaty-esque marriage with Sab Tan if they let go of Helium. However, John Carter is not dead, and understandably he's upset to learn that despite telling him she loves her, Dejah is out to marry Sab Tan. Carter sneakily meets with Dejah, and when he understands the situation she's in, he plans to overthrow Sab and get him out of the equation in such a way that Dejah can marry him at last. His plan works, and Helium was saved thanks to the Tharks coming together to save the Red Martians, putting all their differences aside. During this battle, the Tharks kill Sab Tan, while Carter kills Sab Kosis because Dejah cannot marry someone who killed her husband. With all that done, the two finally wed. However, their happiness is short-lived because there's a problem at the factory which threatens to thin out the atmosphere so much that the whole of Barsoom might die from asphyxiation. Jon volunteers to fix that, and he goes to fix it, disappearing without a trace for the next 10 years to come. Victim of Black Martian raiders. The marriage between Jon and Dejah was quite an extravagant affair, but just as strangely as Jon appeared on Barsoom, he disappeared from Barsoom as well. Surprisingly, this disappearance happened out of the blue and lasted for a decade of their marriage. So here, Dejah was with her son Thoris, who inherited all the traits of his father. Dejah understandably was very broken up about the disappearance of her husband, and when her son went missing, she crumbled. Dejah was on this journey to see her loved ones, and while on her way, after 5 days of traveling, she was attacked by the Black Martians. These Black Martians call themselves the descendants of Issus, which is not agreed upon by the Therns, but that is a whole different argument. These Black Martians are very savage, and they kidnap Dejah. While kidnapped, she meets another beautiful woman, a red Martian princess like her, called Tuvia of Tarth, who informs Dejah that her husband has returned to Barsoom. As we delve deep into it, we learn that our girl Tuvia has a little crush on Jon. Well, not a little. She is very much in love with him. But that is like the second priority right now, because Dejah is now a harem girl. She is chained to a bed, and right before something horrific happens to her, Jon shows up. Jon charges an assault against the Black Martians, and now the couple are reunited. But this reunion didn't last long because Dejah is kidnapped again. This time, she, Tuvia, and Fedor, a Thern princess, all three were thrown into the Temple of Sun and locked away for a year. Turns out this was a personal vendetta against Jon, as all three of these women loved him very much. The last moment that Jon sees of his wife before the temple gates are closed is Fedor attacking her in a fit of jealousy. Understandably, the worry that his wife might be dead drove him mad, but luckily enough, Dejah was not dead. She was eventually saved by Matai Sheng, the Therns, who are big followers of Issus, holy hecadors of Therns and related to Fedok by proxy. So while they saved the three girls, they put Tuvia and Dejah in danger by sending them off to the north, to Okar, where the Yellow Martians dwell. As Dejah is very beautiful and sought after, there's a small fight between the leaders on who gets to have her. This is very humiliating. It does, however, stall the events of Dejah's ownership long enough for Jon to come and save her. Finally, the couple is reunited, and for good this time. Jon is considered the warlord of Barsoom and Jeddak of Jeddaks, giving the couple their much-needed happy ending. Dejah Thoris meets Vampirella. In this arc, we see Dejah come across her favourite vampire, Vampirella. In this story, the scientists of Barsoom noticed a strange spaceship in their orbit. The person they sent to investigate was Dejah. As she investigated, Dejah almost fell victim to the hands of a white ape, but as she fought against it, her knight in shining armour came in the form of Vampirella. Once the crisis was averted, Vampirella told her about her dying planet where blood, the source of life, was no longer flowing, dooming the vampire race as a whole. Dejah sympathizes with Vampirella and her struggles. She sees Barsoom in Draculon, but that sympathy comes with a stake because she soon learns Vampirella has sent a message to the rest of the people in Draculon, and now they're on their way to Barsoom, hungry out of their minds and desperate to feed on some warm, fresh blood. Dejah thinks on her feet and considers taking Vampirella to Helium, where the technology might help them out. However, the technology of Helium cannot form blood. So on the Gedak's order, Vampirella and Dejah go to the pilgrimage of goddess Issus, hoping she can give them an answer. When they reach the gates of Issus, they find out that she is an old woman who wishes to strike a bargain with Vampirella. In exchange for giving Issus her immortality and youth, Vampirella and her people can be the plant men who drink the fresh blood of the pilgrims and take the place of the holy Hecadors who cannibalize the pilgrims. At first, Vampirella considers this, but then she realizes that Issus was not planning on keeping her side of the bargain and kills her. Her people consider Vampirella a goddess for being able to kill Issus, and they show her the technology that they have, which is powered by the 9th ray, allowing them to open portals and gates. Using this gate, we learn that the first ships of Draculon had landed, and Tus, the guard of Jeddak, killed everyone and everything without allowing the Vampiri to speak for themselves. Using this gate, Dejah and Vampirella travel to the North Pole, where Dejah's father is working on a trap to bring down the Vampire spacecrafts. Once there, while Vampirella is distracted with her father, Dejah activates the trap because she realizes the help that Vampirella wants is not something the whole of Barsoom can provide. She brings down all the ships safely, and together with Vampirella, they travel to Kadabra because in Dejah's mind, this is a new beginning. With the Okar's machine, the 8th ray stone of the Therns, and the teleportation machine from the Firstborns, she is sure that she would be able to solve the problem of the Vampiri race. They travel through the caves and fight off Tus, who refuses to see Dejah's peaceful solution. Using the 8th ray stone, Dejah controls the Vampiri race and takes them with her. Together they work in the labs of Kadabra, bringing the technologies of all the nations together to finally make a sustainable blood supply for the Vampiri. As a gesture of kindness, Vampirella helps Dejah too, as Barsoom is drying up. Using the technologies they had at their beck, they brought forth the rivers of Barsoom, which is a big step. Vampirella offers to take Dejah with her to her planet, where Dejah can live out her life as a scientist, but Dejah refuses, knowing that the peace between the nations of Barsoom is only temporary. While Vampirella bids adieu to Dejah, she leaves our Martian princess with a new vigor for life because she is truly the savior of an entire race with her scientific abilities, something not a lot of people can boast about. Adventure of Dejah Thoris and John Carter. Helium was invaded by Kori, an alien species from outer space. But before we get into the details of this invasion, let's get something clear. Dejah is very sought after. She's a princess, she's skilled, she's gorgeous, and she's the epitome of grace and beauty. But how is that relevant, you ask? Well, the answer is it turns out that men are not that different on Mars. They would rather wage war over a woman than take rejection on the chin like a champ. So because of her beauty, she becomes the unwilling cause of the Kori Invasion. It turns out there's a set of stars beyond Barsoom called the Kori. The Kori were not a threat until the day they launched an offensive attack on Barsoom, effectively destroying the forces of Helium and every other nation on the planet. Understandably, this was not very cool. But how could they end up doing that? It was all possible thanks to a mad scientist called Vush Tanzar, who is obsessed with Dejah and decides to disclose the location of Barsoom to the whole universe. Dejah ended up being imprisoned by the Kori leader, and who imprisoned her? An old enemy, of course. It's Joshua Clark, John's enemy since his Civil War days. Things just keep getting worse for Dejah. While all of this is happening, Tanzar, being a man with no situational awareness, keeps trying to woo Dejah quite unsuccessfully, might I add. Since she is not into being wooed, Tanzar decides to tell Dejah that her husband is dead, which is stupid because there's not a lot of people on Mars who can kill John Carter. So Dejah understandably didn't believe this madman. Instead, she decided to get a move on. Using Tanzar's affections against him, Dejah managed to manipulate him into releasing her, and once released, he led her to the caves, assuming to save her from Joshua, the Kori leader. But Joshua is a renowned tracker, and like the Man Tracker show from 2006, he tracked down Dejah pretty soon, capturing her in one of the underground caves and imprisoning her again. He decides to behead her to make a statement. He gathers the public of the Helium area, and just as Dejah is about to be beheaded, John shows up. He beheads the huntsman and frees his beloved. He comes face to face with Clark and they have a fight. The duel doesn't result in one person being the victor because John is taken a little back by another superior being on Mars, so the couple decides to take their leave and hide out in the caves until they're ready to face off against Clark. Other media appearances. Dejah has made media appearances a couple of times. In 2009, in a straight-to-DVD movie produced by the Asylum production house, we saw Tracy Lords take on the role of Dejah Thoris. As Tracy is blonde through and through, in this rendition of Dejah, she was given blonde hair. Tracy's attire in this movie is very reminiscent of the slave girl outfit that Princess Leia wore in The Return of the Jedi. If you weren't aware of that movie, that's okay, because the more memorable portrayal of our Martian princess is the 2012 John Carter movie. Dejah was brought to life with the phenomenal Lynn Collins. Her chemistry with Taylor Kitsch's John Carter is incredibly memorable, but on top of that, in this portrayal, we see her as more than a damsel in distress, which is very satisfying for Dejah fans. How powerful is she? While Dejah is revered as the lover of John Carter, who is stronger than most around him, that doesn't mean she doesn't have her own strengths. First, right off the bat, we have to acknowledge her agelessness. Her lack of aging definitely makes her an extremely youthful protagonist to follow, but if you think about it, that also explains her prowess in combat. She's extremely skilled as a combatant, and in no way a damsel in distress who needs saving, which we do see in the spin-off series. It's honestly an amazing feat because she doesn't have any superpowers. She's able to hold her own ground when she needs to, owing to her youthful body and skills, despite being somewhere around 500 years old when she meets John. We see her going against Red Sonja, who is an accomplished warrior in her own right, further sealing Dejah's accomplishments as an agile combatant with incredible wit that has saved her several times. One of her handy abilities is to communicate with everyone. Despite the species, Dejah is able to have a seemingly psychic connection with them, allowing her to talk and communicate with all. But Dejah doesn't stop there. She is considered the regent in the Hall of Science on Helium because she is a pioneer of science on Mars. Her interests are varied, including technology, archaeology, history, and engineering. She's also able to use Martian technology. This comes in as a handy trick for her because she now has a pair of energy wings that can help her fly. She is also an extremely inspiring leader. We see her pulled through as a leader and strategist, which in the end brought Hawk Squad, the Delta Force of Tharks, under her control. This didn't happen because she assumed the position of power. No, Dejah proved every step of the way that she was a capable leader, and her capabilities shone through all the trouble that she faced. Tharks are inherently a violent and barbaric group of species, so to have them hail her as their leader, despite her being a red Martian, is a big feat that can't be brushed aside. Dejah is a queen in her own way, and honestly, you can't disagree even if you don't like her. Marvelous verdict. While the movie was named John Carter, let's be honest, the one who stole our hearts was Dejah, with her beautiful grace and sharp mind. As fans, we'd love to see the future issues of comics delving into her solo adventures because she truly serves as quite the model for young comic book fans with her generosity, kindness, and love for science. And if you liked that content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't done so already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.